According to an old Indian legend, when the world was created, it was without joy. So, elder brother, worn out from all this sadness, summoned all the children of the tribe and ordered them to gather parts of flowers, leaves, and other precious objects that were to be found in this dull, colorless world. After placing the precious objects in the magic bag, the old man brought the children to a secret place. After invoking the help of the gods with his secret chants, elder brother opened the bag, and out flew the most beautiful creatures the children had ever seen. All leaped with joy at the sight of the fluttering bits of colors and yelled, "Dancing flowers! Dancing flowers!" Butterflies were born, and the world would forever be full of colors and joy. Butterflies leave no one indifferent. They inspire poets, challenge artists, and fascinate entomologists. Collectors will travel to the far end of the earth to get hold of a few rare specimens. Ordinary folk are just happy to watch their aerial frolics. Butterflies become even more fascinating when we get to know them better. Butterflies are very old animals. Scientists theorize that they came into existence about 150 million years ago. It's difficult to say which came first, the flower or the butterfly. One thing is sure, the grand alliance between these two forms of life was a very successful one. Butterflies fed on the flower's nectar and helped pollinate the plants as they did. It is also believed that butterflies evolved from their night-dwelling counterparts, the moths. As a rule, butterflies fly by day, are brightly colored, and perch with their wings held up. Moths, which generally fly at night, usually have antennae which look like feathers. They have mostly earthy colors and fold their wings down over their abdomen to camouflage themselves. From their prehistoric ancestors, moths and butterflies proliferated and diversified at a phenomenal rate, soon colonizing every corner of the earth. They can be found from the top of the Himalayas to the lush rainforests of the tropics, where their diversity is at its peak. Today, butterflies and moths number more than 165,000 species, collectively known as Lepidoptera, which constitute a major class of the most successful group of animals on Earth, insects. Strangely, humans instinctively dislike bugs, but enjoy and even marvel at butterflies. The fact that butterflies are insects may thus come as a surprise for some people. Like all insects, Butterflies have 6 legs, and their internal organs are protected by a tough articulated capsule called an exoskeleton, which is divided into 3 sections: head, thorax, and abdomen. The feet of butterflies are equipped with sensors for detecting food and helping them identify the plants and flowers they are walking on. The head shows large compound eyes, antennae, and a proboscis, a specialized tube-like mouthpart which butterflies can uncoil and move to siphon up its liquid food. Some species of sphinx moths have an extraordinarily long proboscis, many times their own body length, which is perfectly adapted to gather nectar from the deepest flowers. Butterflies will also feed on rotting fruit juices, oozing sap, and extract minerals and salts from carrion, urine, manure, and mud. Nearly all insects have wings, but only Lepidoptera flight organs evolved into magnificent works of art. Wing shape varies from species to species, varying from triangular to almost round, squarish, hooked, clipped, or long and drawn out. When a butterfly is handled, fingers often pick up a fine powder composed of tiny colorful scales left behind from the body and wings of the insect. Arranged in rows like slate on a rooftop, these microscopic shingle-like structures create the wonderful colors and patterns adorning their wings. Most butterflies have pigmented scales, giving solid, warm colors. But some tropical species, like Morphos, possess faceted scales, producing metallic, iridescent hues when light is diffracted by their finely grooved surface. While Mother Nature has adorned Lepidoptera with stunning colors and eye-catching designs, she has not done so for our benefit, but for the butterfly's very survival. The major predators of butterflies rely on their keen eyesight to catch their prey. Why then are so many species of butterflies so regally attired? It is because they are actually flying warning signs. Beaming reds and yellows and conspicuous markings advertise that these butterflies taste bad, or worse, that their bodies contain poisonous substances. Birds quickly learn to avoid these butterflies, which can lazily flutter in clearings in full view of their arch-enemies. Some species of butterflies not endowed with any potent toxins simply imitate the wing patterns and colors of their poisonous cousins. This is known as the Batesian phenomenon. Here are poisonous monarchs. And here we have a very tasty viceroy, 2 very different species that look remarkably alike. Of course, predators are unable to distinguish between models and mimics. Many species of butterflies have dazzling bright color fields on the upper surface of their wings and subdued tones on the underside. This contrast confuses an eventual pursuer, which sees conspicuous colors alternating with shadowy tints. Any butterfly hunter will tell you that it's very difficult to follow the movements of such insects because they seem to disappear into thin air. Moths don't have to use disruptive or warning colors to deter birds. They are active at night, when their enemies are sleeping. During the day, moths simply lie low, blending perfectly with their environment. Is it a leaf? Or a flower? A piece of bark or a piece of sculpture? No, they are all butterflies, posing as something uninteresting to a hungry predator. Some also make use of a more active form of defensive action. When threatened, they display large eye spots located on their underwings. This sudden flash of perfectly rendered large eyes is often enough to startle an unsuspecting predator. Despite their apparent fragility, butterflies are surprisingly sturdy flying machines, with an innate knowledge of the laws of aerodynamics. Some butterflies simply flit from flower to flower in a rather erratic fashion. Other species have heavily muscled bodies and are capable of extremely rapid bursts of flight. Sphinx moths beat their wings 100 times per second and have been clocked at 55 kilometers per hour. In Venezuela, some moths are truly giants among flying insects. The Thysania agrippina has a record wingspan of 30 centimeters and is so large and mysterious that it is often mistaken for a bird, a bat, or even a spirit. So, who's the largest? Well, the Attacus atlas moth boasts the largest wing surface of all flying insects. His markings, which look like large eyes, can fool any enemy into believing that it's face to face with a dangerous beast. The most amazing flyer is not the biggest nor the fastest. It's the venerable monarch. Each year, these common butterflies embark on an amazing migration to their southern wintering grounds. Monarchs from west of the Rocky Mountains winter along the Pacific coast in California and the Ensenada region of Mexico. For the last 50 years, the village of Pacific Grove, California held an annual parade marking the arrival of the monarch. In this tiny village of the West Coast, the population agreed to a tax hike in order to purchase the land containing the resting and mating grounds of the migrating hordes. Rarely do these fragile insects win against such formidable predators as the land sharks. In the east, monarchs from Canada and the USA moved to central Mexico, for example, in the magnificent sanctuary of Sierra Chincua. Found only a few kilometers from the village of Angangueo in the high mountains of the state of Michoacan, this protected region hosts millions of mating monarchs. It is estimated that monarchs heading south in late summer must fly up to 6,000 kilometers before reaching their destination, and a few even make a return trip of 1,000 kilometers the next spring. A truly remarkable feat for an insect that weighs only half a gram. How can they do it? First of all, monarchs may live up to 8 months, and by insect standards, this is a considerable lifespan. Most butterflies live only a few weeks, some even a few days. Secondly, Monarchs are very strong flyers. Some of them have been clocked at over 80 kilometers per hour for extended periods. They can also fly very high and take advantage of wind currents and thermals. Monarchs have been spotted by hang gliders and balloonists at altitudes of up to 7,000 feet. Moreover, monarchs possess within their bodies small quantities of iron, which they probably use as a natural compass. In order to study their migratory paths, entomologists have set up an extensive tagging program. Each year since the 50s, thousands of monarchs have had a tiny adhesive tag affixed onto one of their forewings. These tags bear a specific number and an address for reporting recapture. This program yielded a wealth of scientific data and led to some truly amazing discoveries. A monarch tagged in Ontario, Canada, was re-seen a few months later in Mexico, a straight-line distance of 3,432 kilometers. Since butterflies do not usually fly in a direct path, the actual distance flown by this monarch could be in the order of 6,400 kilometers. They offer a grandiose presentation. They are literally everywhere. They hang onto branches like huge clusters of grapes, on the ground, along the tree trunks. Sometimes the fluttering of their wings raises our eyes to discover an orange storm that hides the blue sky. About 30 different large wintering colonies of monarchs have been discovered in Mexico. The total number of butterflies in this tremendous aggregation is estimated at an incredible 300 million monarchs, a truly awesome display of the phenomenal reproductive powers of insects. Despite the ever-present threat of deforestation, the annual arrival in Mexico of these masses is truly a gift from the sky. It is said that love lends wings. In the case of Lepidoptera, we can say that evolution lent them wings for love. In fact, butterflies are essentially flying love machines. The sole purpose of their often brief life is to find a mate and pass on their genes. Like many other animals, butterflies have chosen to reproduce sexually, which allows future generations to adapt rapidly by drawing on the genetic information of two individuals, the male and the female. Butterflies, which fly by day, locate mates mainly by visual cues. To help recognize the opposite sex, the male and female of some species differ in form and color. Once a male has located a female, he will prove to her that he is a rightful contender by initiating a courtship ritual specific to each species. The male, or in some cases, the female, release sex pheromones, a special scent which tells the partner that mating can begin. It has been said that sometimes this potent scent can even be appreciated by us humans. Each butterfly species has its own fragrance, sometimes reminiscent of the smell of certain flowers. Night-dwelling moths cannot use visual cues to find a mate. They must rely entirely on odor. The male's comb-like antennae are sophisticated sensors able to detect infinitesimal traces of a female's scent. Cats are supposed to have 9 lives. Butterflies and moths have only 4, but these have been proven scientifically. Like most insects, they undergo what is called a complete metamorphosis. This means that the Lepidoptera complete their development by undergoing 4 transformations before reaching the adult stage. They start out as eggs. After mating, females lay from 100 to 400 eggs in rows, clusters, or singularly, usually on a host plant specific to each species. Eggs will mature in 1 or 2 weeks. Some others may lie dormant all through winter. Then the eggs hatch and give birth to a familiar creature which most people don't even associate with butterflies, a caterpillar, the second stage. Caterpillars are nature's most efficient eating machines. Some practically never stop gorging themselves, pausing briefly only to shed their skin, which cannot stretch as they double and triple in weight. Caterpillars' mouthparts only cut and chew. They can't bite, and to defend themselves, must rely on camouflage. Others are adorned with hairs which irritate, or elaborate horns whose function is to deter eventual predators. As they feed, some caterpillars ingest toxins present in their host plant's tissues, becoming themselves poisonous. They advertise their unpalatability by showing gaudy colors and markings. It's difficult to imagine that these massive, slow, ground-dwelling animals will eventually become graceful butterflies. Generally, 3 or 4 weeks after their birth, caterpillars stop eating and undergo their last and most spectacular molt. They transform into a rigid capsule called a chrysalis, into which they will spend the third stage of their life, as if in a state of suspended animation. This capsule is naked in the case of most butterflies, and protected by a silk cocoon in most species of moths. Inside this inconspicuous and seemingly lifeless receptacle, momentous events are taking place. In a few weeks or months, depending on the species, all the energy stored by the caterpillar will be used to create a completely different creature, a butterfly, the perfect summation of a long and arduous journey. No birth in the animal kingdom is as magical and dramatic as the emergence of a butterfly. A new life literally unfolds before our eyes. The adult butterfly must expand its wings by pumping blood into them and wait for them to dry and harden. This is a critical moment for a newly emerged butterfly because they cannot flee from predators. In about 3 to 4 hours, these butterflies can take off and start searching for a mate. However, one cannot help but wonder at the efficiency of this process. From egg to adulthood, a butterfly will sometimes increase its weight up to 2,700 times. To equal this performance, a 6-pound newborn baby would need to weigh 8 tons as a full-grown adult. Lepidoptera have many roles to play in the ecosystems they inhabit. First of all, they are pollinators, fostering the production of fruits, vegetables, and fibers which are in turn eaten by humans and a host of animals. In many countries, people look upon insects as a source of food and eat caterpillars, chrysalis, or adult insects. The study of this behavior is called entomophagy. In Thailand, for example, eating insects is not a necessity. Au contraire, these fine gourmets savor and enjoy these delicacies, which in some cases remind one of gorgonzola or even pastry cream. Few people realize that the most important economic insect in the world is a moth. This Lepidoptera, Bombyx mori, gave birth to a 4,000-year-old industry, silk. Silkworms were certainly the first insects ever domesticated by man. Each caterpillar spins a cocoon made of a single thread of silk that may be up to a mile long. It takes 45,000 such cocoons to obtain 2 pounds of raw silk. China alone produces 75 million pounds of silk each year. Apart from their economical and ecological worth, butterflies also have priceless aesthetic value. Butterfly watching is becoming increasingly popular among nature lovers. All it takes is sunshine, a field scattered with wildflowers, and a bit of patience. A pair of close focusing binoculars may also help. In order to closely examine a butterfly, you will need a fine net. Once the insect has been caught, it will then be put into a container or a specially designed observation cage. In this way, it is possible to examine the specimen without injuring it. After its close encounter of the humankind, the specimen is released so that it can fulfill its adult mission, breed more butterflies. Another way to observe butterflies is to attract them to your backyard by building a butterfly garden. To do so, just plant some nectar flowers and Lepidoptera host plants. Pretty soon, multicolored winged visitors will regularly pay you a visit. Because they fly at night, moths are much more difficult to observe than butterflies. Fortunately, they are strongly attracted to lights. During warm summer nights, a brightly lit white sheet is an easy way to attract insects. Dozens of kinds will be caught this way, especially if there are no other light sources around. A full moon, for example, is not conducive to a successful night hunt. It is not known for sure why moths are so attracted to lights. It has been postulated that they spiral into the artificial illumination because they mistake it for the moon and miscalculate their flight path. Moths may also flock to the bright spot created by a light because they interpret it as an open space, or because the light source electrically enhances moth-attracting chemicals present in the air. Attracting moths this way and catching them is really child's play. But for collector and museologist Georges Brassard, catching butterflies and moths is more than a hobby. It's a full-time job, which takes him on a kind of permanent voyage around the world. Georges Brassard devoted his life to collecting insects from the four corners of the earth to reconcile man with his beloved friends. In 1985, he founded the Montreal Insectarium, the first institution of its kind in North America, and gave it his personal collection of 300,000 of the most beautiful insects from around the world. The Montreal Insectarium was an overnight success and became a world-renowned entomological reference center. The example set forth by Georges Brassard prompted the building of other insect museums in Africa, China, France, and the United States. Another tourist attraction which is becoming more and more popular are butterfly aviaries. There, all year round, people can observe live exotic butterflies flying freely under a canopy of lovely rainforest flora. Many tropical countries like Thailand and Malaysia are thus tapping the unsuspected resources of their rich entomological fauna. In Kuala Lumpur, Butterfly Park is home to some 8,000 butterflies from 150 species. Of course, to operate such a park, you need a lot of live specimens, and a helping hand from the local expert hunters is always welcome. In some tropical countries, the demand for eggs and chrysalis of exotic species of Lepidoptera is so great that many people have started butterfly farms. There, under protective netting, safe from predators and parasites, butterflies can reproduce at a phenomenal rate. Even in North America, butterfly and moth breeders are doing a nice business, selling their specimens to institutions and collectors alike. Butterflies have always fascinated man. Their superb colors, graceful flight, and mysterious life cycles inspired countless folk tales and myths. For the Aztecs, butterflies represented the souls of the departed, who took this exquisite shape to come and pay a visit to the living. In many cultures, the mere sighting of a butterfly is often regarded as a good omen. We now know that there is some scientific truth behind this popular belief. Butterflies are very sensitive to changes in the environment, and their population will decline rapidly if their natural habitat is destroyed or threatened by pollution. For environmentalists, the disappearance of butterflies is a bad sign for the future of any ecosystem. An encounter with a butterfly, however brief, is always a magical moment, when our mind and soul rejoice in the sight of one of nature's most adorable creatures. Truly, butterflies give flight to our imagination, symbolizing freedom and giving birth to hope.